I am Laura Dixon, and you are listening to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast, episode number 86, How to Feel. Welcome to the Naturally Thin for Life podcast. I'm going to teach you how to get out of your diet brain so that you too can be naturally thin for life. No counting, restricting, or obsessing. I am going to take the mystery out of it for you so that you can become naturally thin starting today. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to share with you how I think about feeling emotions and share with you a little bit of how I teach my clients how to feel and why this is an essential skill to losing weight and keeping it off with ease. I did not grow up learning the skill. Definitely didn't learn it in our society. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it from my parents. I actually probably learned the opposite with, I think, a well-intended thought process. But really, I developed this thought about myself of, I'm just not a feeling person. I'm a doing person. As if they're mutually exclusive and they don't go hand in hand. Most of our society thinks of feelings as separate from actions. And that if you're a feeling person, that means you aren't an action taker. And we all want to be action takers, right? So then it means we shouldn't be a feeling person. But it couldn't be further from the truth. My coach and mentor, Brooke Castillo, who trained me, I actually have 2 coaching certifications, and her school, the Life Coach School, was the second school I went to, and it was everything I had been missing in so many ways, but especially when it comes to understanding why we do take action and why we don't take action. It always comes back to a feeling. So if you don't know how to feel, then you are actually getting in your own way of changing actions, changing your behaviors, and creating more of the behavior that you want. And losing weight and keeping it off is the compound effect. It's a series of decisions that you make around food, when, what, and how much to eat. And all of those decisions are actions. And because your actions and inaction are driven by your emotions, by your feelings, if you don't know how to feel and you don't know where your feelings come from, it will make changing any action so much more difficult than it needs to be. It's why my clients now tell me, I can't believe how quickly this losing weight, it feels so easy to me. It feels like they just don't need so much effort. And it's because of this skill, learning how to feel. Before we dive in, as always, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you're always getting the latest episodes. And that way you'll never miss any of the bonus episodes as well, where I often share some time-sensitive new teachings that are available to you inside the Naturally Thin for Life program. And if you're loving the podcast, I would love if you would take a minute to leave a review and write a review. You can do that typically at the bottom of wherever you listen to the episodes, and that helps the internet magic suggest the podcast to other women like you so that they too can find the freedom that comes when you end the obsession with losing weight and you finally put this behind you. Side note, I'm going to do an upcoming episode on what that mental freedom creates for women because it blows my mind every time I hear it. I see time and time again when this struggle no longer takes up mental space in women's minds, they get to take that mental freedom and do extraordinary things, like go back to school and start a career, get a new job, start their own businesses, become a coach themselves, take a promotion, make more money in less time. So many fun things. So anyways, when you take a minute to leave a review and write a review, that helps women who don't even know that this is possible for them yet see a way out. So thank you for doing that. Okay, back on how to feel. I want you to remember first how feelings work. And I'm going to use the word emotion and feeling interchangeably here. We have thoughts in our brain, sentences in our mind. And those sentences, when our brain latches onto them, sends a signal to another part of our brain that then sends peptides into our bodies and our nervous systems that create a feeling. And it's called a feeling because we feel it, right? Humans are emotional beings. We feel feelings in our body. They vibrate in our body, and dependent upon what the feeling is, they feel different because of the different vibrations, because of the different peptides in our body. From that feeling, we then take action or inaction. You cannot take action without a feeling first. There is always a feeling in your body. And what that action is will be different based on the emotion you're experiencing. I'm going to give you a simple example about anger and calm. So think about when you're feeling angry and you take action from anger versus when you take action from calm. So let's say you have an unexpected meeting come up in your schedule and you have a deadline today as well. And so this happens, right? These are circumstances that happen. And then you have this thought, Julie, your admin or whoever, Julie shouldn't have put this meeting on my schedule. And when you think the thought, Julie, my admin, should not have put this meeting on my schedule, you create the emotion of anger in your body. And from anger, maybe you yell at her, send her a snappy email, or you just ruminate in your brain and you're spinning about all the things that Julie does wrong. And I really need to get rid of Julie and I need someone else and like blah, 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 right? All the things your brain goes to tell you. Versus the same situation. And instead of the thought, Julie shouldn't have put this meeting on my schedule, instead of that thought, you then think, I'll figure this out. And when you have the thought, the sentence in your brain, I'll figure this out, that creates the emotion of calm. And from calm, you might look at your schedule and maybe you calmly tell Julie, today's not going to work for that meeting. Or you might actually see that you have other meetings that you can move, or someone on your team can go to the meeting instead of you. Or that deadline that you thought actually is like a soft deadline, and you think, well, I'll just come in early tomorrow and I'll knock it out and I'll be done. And whether I send this proposal at 8 o'clock tonight or 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, it doesn't really matter. Very different action and much higher problem-solving ability in your mind when you feel calm versus anger. So I want you to really first see how different our action, our behavior is when we're experiencing different emotions. And remember, the only reason your brain ever has a desire for food that is out of alignment with your body's desire for food. So anytime your brain wants to eat when it's not hungry, eat past the point of being satisfied, eat food that you know isn't going to feel good in your body, anytime your brain wants to do any of that, the only reason that is happening, the only reason you have that desire and then you overeat is because your brain is fighting against an emotion. So I want you to see how that when you feel how important this skill is, because it is the key to changing your action and therefore creating different results for yourself. Of course, when you learn how to feel, it doesn't end there because it impacts all the action and inaction that you're going to have, which then when you look at your behavior, of course, that's how you create different results for you. What most people believe today in our world, at least most of the people that I've surrounded myself with outside of this coaching area of my life, outside of this emotionally kind of aware how to feel area of my life, most people think that you have two options when it comes to feelings. Option number one, you can ignore them and bottle them up. Option number two, you can react to them. So in my Julie scheduled a meeting example from earlier, and say your brain defaults to the thought, Julie shouldn't have scheduled this meeting. She's a terrible admin. Whatever happens that creates that feeling of anger for you. And when you have the emotion of anger in your body and you simultaneously believe that, well, I only have two options with this anger, then all you're left with is either I can ignore it and bottle it up, which it really doesn't go away, right? Because you're like ruminating and spinning and gathering all the evidence of why Julie is just like the worst admin ever. Option one. Or your brain's like, okay, I have this anger. I can either bottle it up and do that, or I can react to it, which means maybe yelling at her or snapping at her or going and complaining to the person in the office next to me. Neither of which you probably want to do, and neither of which lead you to any solution, any behavior that creates a result that serves you. So really, you're just getting in your own way. And really, you're just kind of sabotaging yourself from whatever the result is, which is probably meeting the deadline and maybe going to the meeting, right? Whatever that result is. Spinning in your mind about Julie, complaining to the next door neighbor, doing all those other things actually doesn't have you working to meet that deadline. And it doesn't have you problem solving to figure out how you're going to fit that meeting in. So it makes sense that when most people have the belief of, oh, well, all I can do is either ignore it or react to it, then most people decide, oh, well, I might as well just discount my emotions as being important, right? Because you're left with a lose-lose situation. Either ignore it or react to it. And this is only because what most people don't understand is that your own brain, your thoughts created the emotion in the first place. And there's actually a third option. Rather than either just ignore or react, the third option is that you can allow the emotion to be in your body without ignoring it and without reacting to it in a way that the emotion comes and then it leaves. And that is the freedom you get when you know how to feel. And when you have this skill, then if you're feeling restless in the evening at 9 o'clock and you know how to let the restlessness come and go, your brain is no longer searching for a distraction with food. Or when you're feeling really stressed, your brain is no longer searching for a distraction from food. This is why the change of becoming naturally thin when you know how to feel becomes permanent and lifelong, and it feels effortless because there's no battle. This is how you change your behavior permanently. You only need willpower when you are trying to override a behavior with a different behavior without first allowing the emotion, without first creating a different emotion. So in my example, if you're trying to willpower yourself to calm while you're feeling angry, without allowing the anger to pass through your body and realizing that you're the one creating the anger, if you don't have this skill of how to feel and you don't know how to feel that anger first, it's going to take so much more energy and effort because you're going to be trying to ignore the anger. You're going to bottle it up. You're going to talk yourself into not yelling at Julie. You're going to put on sort of like a kind, smirky face and walk out and you talk to her for a while, but you're still feeling angry inside and you're like ruminating and boiling, but you're telling yourself to ignore it. And then you're still not really feeling calm. You need a lot of willpower for that. And all willpower is willpower is fighting against the action you would take if you let the anger play out, right? So you're feeling angry in your body and if you're like, if I really reacted to the anger and I just let the anger play out, I'd probably go out and yell at her. Willpower, when you don't know how to allow the emotion, is you fighting against the action of going and yelling at her. Versus when you allow the anger because you understand you're creating it with your thoughts and you let the anger be in your body without making it a problem, all of a sudden you instantly feel a sense of calm. You no longer need any willpower to not yell at Julie. You don't need willpower to pretend you aren't angry. And often the anger itself simply leaves your body. And then from there, your mind will be able to find a solution so much more quickly. So allowing your emotion, which is the same as feeling your feelings, is the fastest way to change your behavior. And your decisions around food all come from your feelings. So how do you do this? First, you start with the awareness of what is happening in your body. And you remind yourself, I'm the one creating this feeling. It didn't happen to me from the outside world. It's because of the sentences that are in my brain right now. I'm having a thought right now, and that's why I have this feeling right now. You don't even necessarily have to know what the thought is. You don't necessarily have to write down the exact sentence in your mind. You can, and that can often be helpful. When I really deeply felt in my body, oh, I'm the one creating this anxiety right now because of the thoughts happening in my brain. all of a sudden there's a sense of calm, even with that simple awareness. You haven't even really done anything yet, other than become aware that I'm having a thought in my mind. No one is forcing the anxiety into my body. It's coming from my own brain. Then you are not going to try to change it right away. This is a huge mistake a lot of people make when they start to have this awareness at first. They think, well, if it's coming from my thoughts, if I have this feeling, if I go back to my anger example, if I have this feeling of anger and it's coming from the thoughts in my brain, then I can just change the thoughts. Yes, you can change your thoughts to change the feeling that you're experiencing, but oftentimes your brain's default reaction, like the anger, it's not going to allow you to quickly change your thought. So do not skip over this. We're all still human. We're not robots. We can't just say, oh, there's a thought, and now all of a sudden I want a new thought. Sometimes you can do that, but there will inevitably be times that the emotion feels so strong and you might not even want to change the thought. So for example, I'm going to give you an example outside of the anger. Let's say you have a loss in your life. You don't probably want to change the thought that's creating sadness for you. You don't want to change the thought that's creating the devastation for you. And so if you don't want to change the thought in that example, or your brain is just like, oh no, we're feeling angry. We're going to feel that and we're going to keep this thought. And your brain's arguing with you wanting to change the thought. So if you either want to keep the thought because you want to feel sad and you want to feel devastated, or your brain's like, no, we're staying here, then you have to develop the skill of feeling the emotion. So do not skip over this. So you're aware that your own thought created the feeling you're experiencing. And now you're not going to try to change the feeling. You're just going to feel it. Then from there, you just want to be willing to feel the emotion. You don't have to love it. You just want to be willing to feel it in your body. And how you can do that from there is you want to ask yourself some questions about the emotion. What is the emotion? Name it. You might have to Google a feeling list for this. I know I did. My emotion vocabulary was quite limited to, those like magnet things you put on a refrigerator that say, today I'm feeling sad. Today I'm feeling happy. That was about the extent of my feeling vocabulary. So there's no shame in Googling an emotion list. So you start with something like, okay, this is X fill in the blank emotion. This is anger in my body. And then from there, you ask yourself, how would I describe this vibration of anger in my body to a child? And I don't want to scare the child. So how would I describe it really objectively to the child? I might say, it feels like a fast, rapid vibration in my chest. It kind of feels like guitar strings rubbing up against each other right between my collarbone, and they sort of move down to my stomach, and my face starts to feel a little warm, and I can feel my heart rate. It's a little bit faster than it was a minute ago. If I was imagining a color, it might look red in my body. So you ask yourself these type of questions. What does it feel like? How would I describe it in a really objective way? So you don't want to be telling yourself, this is painful, this is torture, this is unbearable. Because what will happen is your brain will be like, ooh, this is bad. We don't want to feel this. And all of a sudden, the willingness to feel that vibration is going to go out the window. So you can ask yourself, what does it feel like? What is the texture of it like? Does it move? What color would you give it? Where is it in my body? The point of asking yourself these types of questions is not to find the perfect questions or the right questions, but when you're answering these questions, you're directing your brain to the experience of the vibration in your body. And then you're able to describe it to yourself objectively and see that it can't harm you. And here's what I think the really fun part is. As you sit with it for even just a minute or two and describe this anger to yourself, describe this emotion to yourself, be open to what happens afterwards. Watch how it dissipates and often leaves your body, sometimes quite quickly, sometimes not, but when it's not a problem, it doesn't need to leave quickly. As you practice this, your brain learns, I can handle any emotion. They don't hang on into perpetuity. And while you may enjoy certain emotions more than others, none of them can harm you. And really notice what happens in your body after that particular feeling dissipates, and then notice what your brain does. It's fascinating. Every time I feel an uncomfortable emotion, and I'll just allow it to be in my body, I don't make it a problem, I just accept that it's there and I feel it. On the other side, my brain offers me brand new ideas, new solutions, new thoughts that create even more fun feelings. There's this openness and expansiveness and a solution that I could have never anticipated that's on the other side. This happens because instead of focusing on this feeling is a problem, this feeling is a problem, your brain, when you tell it this feeling is a problem, this feeling is a problem, it's going to be like, all right, how do we fix this feeling? Is it food? Do we yell? Do we get really anxious and start cleaning? Like, what do we do? How do we fix this problem? Instead of that happening, your brain learns instead, no feeling is a problem. And when there isn't a problem, your mind's ability to then create solutions and new thought patterns that serve you, that's where all of your mental energy goes. And because all of your mental energy can now go to creating solutions and ideas and efficiencies and new thought patterns, because it's spending no mental energy on, gotta get out of this feeling, you are able to be so much more effective and so much more efficient and enjoy your life so much more. And the more you practice this deliberately, the faster your brain will learn this skill, and it will just start to apply it throughout your day without you really thinking about it. So learning how to feel doesn't mean every single time you feel an emotion, you're like, stop, pause in the middle of a meeting. I need 5 minutes, got to feel my feelings. No, you just want to do it deliberately, maybe a couple times a day. And then what will happen is your brain will start to do this without you even knowing that you're really doing it. I can't tell you how many times women have said something to me like, so I was at work today and all of a sudden I had more patience than I usually do because of scheduling, or I had a deadline moved up, or someone quit on me today. And I noticed that I felt really frustrated in that moment. But then I realized after the fact that the frustration came and it went really quickly, and I found a brilliant solution. Why? Because she has the skill of allowing the frustration to come and go, and her brain knows how to apply that skill automatically without her spending much time thinking about it. This is why almost every woman I've ever helped lose weight makes more money. I'm going to do an entire episode on this, but her ability to create more value, to then receive more money, her brain's ability to create solutions effectively and efficiently in less time, it goes up dramatically with this skill. So feeling your feelings is not just a soft skill that we do when we're feeling really sad because we're going through something really hard in our life. It's a skill that will create so much more effectiveness and efficiency and relaxation and calm and solutions and ideas that will have you enjoying your life so much more. The last thing I will leave you with is this. To practice this skill with both emotions you love and emotions your brain is telling you don't love, you will expand your ability to feel more quote unquote positive emotion for a more prolonged period of time, and you will more quickly move through negative emotion. It's a win-win on both sides. And when I think about positive and negative emotion, if your brain has a negative connotation with the word negative emotion, you want to think about emotions not really as positive and negative. I just use them so it's really clear for your brain what I'm talking about. But you can think about them as more comfortable or uncomfortable, or more familiar or unfamiliar emotions, right? More emotions that maybe you want, or emotions you want to be more willing to feel. You can think about emotions as like types of food on a platter. You can just pick the ones that you want. None are good, none are bad, but there's familiar emotions, unfamiliar emotions, comfortable, uncomfortable. This is a lifelong skill. There is no downside to learning it. It will only make your life calmer and more freeing when you know how to feel. So I really encourage you to practice this. and really notice what happens on the other side for you. I think and I know you will be surprised at what your brain is capable of when you're no longer fighting with, battling with an emotion, telling yourself it's a problem, telling yourself you have to bottle it up, and you're willing to simply feel it. So today I gave you some suggestions on how to go about feeling your feelings. You want to find how to develop that lifelong skill for yourself, which means for some people, they feel their emotions slightly differently. Sometimes you may feel anger one way and you may feel a different emotion like restlessness in a little bit of a different way. There is no right or wrong way to feel your emotions when your brain really understands they're not a problem and that you can feel any feeling with a willingness to be present with it. If you want more help with this, make sure you join the Naturally Thin for Life program, where I teach you many more tools to help you feel your feelings so that you can change any action or behavior you want to change so that you can have a different result in your life with more ease and less willpower. And as you are practicing this, for those of you that are in Naturally Thin for Life, and if you want to join Naturally Thin for Life, you can get coached by me personally to help you work through any of your questions with this skill and any roadblocks that your brain, your mind specifically presents to you that get in the way of having this be a skill that you have. All right, my friends, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will talk with you next week. Friend, if you are loving what you are learning here on the podcast, you have to come check out my Naturally Thin for Life program. It is my on-demand lifetime access program where I teach you brand new concepts not taught here on the podcast. And I will walk you through exactly how to implement all of the tools I teach you here so that they become just a part of you. You will learn exactly how to understand your specific brain and your specific body so that you become naturally thin for the rest of your life and you no longer struggle with your weight. Inside of the Naturally Thin for Life program, you can also receive live help so that you consistently make progress and reach your goal. I will teach you how to accelerate your naturally thin journey in a sustainable way so that the change becomes permanent. The best part is that it's risk-free. You either love it or I will give you your money back. If you are ready to finally be naturally thin for life, join us at lauradixoncoaching.com/work with me. That's LAURADIXON coaching.com and click on the Work With Me tab. I cannot wait to see you there.